Good morning, fellow Tableau lovers. In this video, we're going to talk about transitioning from Excel to Tableau. Now, a lot of people I have worked with, probably a majority of them, all started in Excel. And, we do a certain way of analysis, of presenting results, creating reports, building dashboards even, though much more rare, in Excel. And then we come over to Tableau for the first time, and we start using Tableau like we would Excel. And the problem with that is they're two different tools, right? Completely different tools. Tableau is a visualization tool. Excel is a spreadsheet tool. So you need to start thinking more in terms of visualization, right? And I find that once you start thinking that way, your designs start changing. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you an example of something I deal with day to day when someone is kind of getting started with Tableau, right? So I give them, they have a data set, and what they do is they build something like this, right? It doesn't really tell a story. It doesn't really get my eyes to look anywhere. And one of the rules I was taught was you can only really present four things on a dashboard, usually when it comes to telling a story, right? In here, you've pretty much just gone, here's all the data, Mr. Manager, good luck, have fun, right? But we don't do it that way in Tableau. In Tableau, you have to say, hey, look over here, or hey, this is interesting, or this is a problem, right? So what I've done is I've taken the same data and I said, all right, let's go through it and pretend I'm actually presenting this to a manager. What do I want to tell them? It's like, all right, we're talking about profits here, right? But what's a good profit? What's a bad profit? What category is it in? What is it over time? So I've transformed it into this, right? So now we're making use of maps instead of just having, central, north, south. Here, at least, it gives you context of like, oh, we're talking about over there, right? Like geographically, right? We got some labels here, 99, and then you have this pink and green. I think this was supposed to be red, but looks pink to me for some reason. Must be the scaling. And then I have here just very simply some years in terms of profit, and this is kind of like the big one here. This maybe probably should have gone first, it's kind of the starting point of the story. But straight away your eye is attracted to it, and that's because of the contrast. So gray we don't really pay attention to, right? In terms of our eye, in terms of our sensitivity to the color. But when you see red, it's like, alarm bells. So what I'm trying to tell in this particular story is that, okay, tables is losing us a lot of money. Okay. The question is why? So when you're in a meeting room, right, we're talking real world situation, and you present this and you go, hey, Mr. Manager, Mr. Bosses, all senior management, we've lost a lot of money. They're going to ask why, right? And the goal of your dashboard is to start generating those questions of why is it that? And if you can build a simple enough dashboard to answer a few questions, it's good enough to get you started on the next step, which I'll talk about in a second. So let's say I go, all right, tables has lost almost 20,000, more than 20,000 pounds. Let's have a look. Is this a recurring problem? Right? So you can see from 2016 all the way to 2019, it's kind of getting progressively worse. We can probably expand this to quarters. So you can see we had a few good quarters, but nothing crazy, right? And we can see that it's always it seems to be getting worse. So that's probably one of the questions we're going to study in terms of building the analyst dashboard, which you'll see next, right? We can reduce this again, and we can see that it's happening primarily in central and in southern, right, for tables. But the thing is, this could be misleading as well. So this might be another question. It could be that a particular product line in north for tables is doing really well, but then you have heaps of them that are not, right? So those are the kind of questions you want to generate. And this brings me to what's called actionable data. You want a dashboard that will actually either create questions or make someone build a dashboard or someone do an investigation or something like that. So what I tend to do is sometimes just write the questions out. I'll make this a little bit bigger for you guys. Is that too big? No, it's perfect. Right? So sometimes you just write a few questions out, and then when you build the dashboard for the analyst who's going to start investigating these things, you keep these in mind. Okay? All right. So that brings me to the next thing. So in my line of work, usually what happens after those questions, they go, Jed, go investigate. All right. So what I'll do is I'll take all the data and I'll just do a kind of a really, I guess, wide visualization of all the different fields and parameters that I can kind of think of. and I just kind of put them on a dashboard and activate all the filters. And the idea is I can give this to several analysts, I can give it to managers, and as they're coming up with questions, they can start investigating. So going back to that, tables has lost a lot of money, let's start investigating. So they can actually click on this. We can see that a lot of them have shipped early, and maybe 3/4, 75% are actually shipping on time. So if I click on ship late, what are we seeing? Well, we are losing some money, you know. We can see that it seems to be getting worse. We can see that Northern seems to have a lot from Barrick's training table, right? How, oh, sorry, no, I'm going the other way. We can see that in terms of Central, we have Han computer table, Lesro round table, Barrick conference. So this gives you a little bit more granularity in that these ones are probably the product ranges that are losing us money. But this is kind of how it goes, where you start investigating, and then that will spur on maybe more dashboards that you'll use for further investigation. Okay, that was a lot to take in. So the last thing I'm going to talk about is this step, right? This kind of investigation step. What I usually see is people get these questions, and because they're beginners, that's okay. They'll build something more like this, right? Which is you have a visualization that's, again, not really, there's no contrast, there's no colors, it's not really telling the story, and then they'll just pack it with filters, and they think it's sort of like an investigation tool for a manager. But there's a few problems with this. Number one is you can't see, this isn't actually giving you much value, right? Let me get my drawing tool. This part's not actually giving you much value. It's just kind of a wasted space. Also, if I'm filtering out here, it's hard to kind of see how different factors are changing as well, because you want to be able to drill down, right? So instead, what you can do as a little tip is, if you're building like this already, one way to get out of this habit is think about each of these, right? Each of these can be its own visualization, right? So if you're measuring profit, let's say profit here, just do another one for this. So profit, but by year, right? Or maybe even year and quarter, right? Or you want to do another profit by category and subcategory, profit by region, profit by country, maybe a map for this one, segment, ship status, anything where you have actually probably a big group, something like category, subcategory, maybe a tree map, right? Which is this one here, right? Or a hierarchy map, I think they call it that. So what I've done is, just with that kind of basic philosophy, gone into this one and built this. And this is the same thing, except what you'll notice is there's no filters because you don't need them. A lot of the times you don't need filters. You're better off doing a miniature visualization that will help you filter, because each of those little visualizations guides the reader onto where to go, right? So if I look at region profit, like as a manager, I'm like, all right, well, South has the lowest. Let's start there with the investigation, right? And I can see everything in context as a big, wide, okay, here's everything that's going on, right? And everything's changing as we go along. So we can see, all right, let's have a look at the shift late. We can see home office is struggling, right? We can see, okay, which one's the lowest. So I can actually do something like this. Let's have a look at the ones that are just making a little, oh, hang on. Maybe these. Yeah, and I can see that, all right, it seems to be Spain and Italy, Spain with the most problems. So I can go into Spain. Oh, hang on, what did I click? Was it Spain or Italy? I think I flipped it, right? I can start going into the data. I can start questioning things, and that's kind of how your deep dive will work. All right, so that's some tips on how to transition from one program to another, and hopefully helps you guys build better and more awesome visualizations. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.